I'm not all caught up with my personal curriculum because, I mean, yes, I've been busy, but more so, I'm just not looking forward to it. So I'm spending part of today catching up and trying to enjoy the process of it. There's a lot of great advice out there about what to do if you're overwhelmed, and I will be talking about that later. But what if you're just bored? There's going to be boring parts to anything you learn, and there's already study advice that's really good for this, like have a reward, try to beat the clock, stuff like that. And something I do, and I haven't really heard anyone else talk about this, is go into it with the idea of, I want to have something funny to say or interesting to say when someone asks me, so what did you do today? And I'll give some examples in a second, but I think finding the humor in things is literally how I got through high school. All high school required reading. I'd make fun of the characters or the historical figures, the writing style, the plot. If there was a science textbook, I'd try to find a way to make the diagrams funny or redraw it in like a fun cartoon type of way. I just try to find the humor in anything I could. And I'd do that in my head. I'd write it down in the books, in my notes. I'd take pictures and send it to people on Snapchat. And yes, I have proof. It's like if you've ever gone on a vacation where everything's gone wrong. It would be wrong to say that you had a nice time and enjoyed the process. But afterwards, when you come home, you can't shut up about all the things that went wrong, and you kind of enjoy talking about it because it's interesting. You would almost be putting some sort of like positive spin on the experience. And making fun of what you're learning is kind of that same general concept. And you don't have to just be making fun of things either. You can try to make them interesting, and how you do this will be different from how I do this, but I'll naturally compare things. So I'm always saying, this is like this, or that reminds me of this time. And they're not always funny. The other day I was in the car, I was looking at the cars that were passing by, and I saw one. It was cute, but it instantly reminded me of a shoe. I've never looked at a car and thought, that looks like a shoe before. So now that is the shoe car. I don't really know why, but I do that with everything. You might be the same way. But if you aren't, don't try to force it. What's going to be most memorable to you is just something that comes naturally. I also like to make statements that make people go like, wait, what? And I'm going to give an example of what I mean in a minute, but back to the personal curriculum and applying that to this. I'm trying to make my way through the Bible front to back, and right now I am in Exodus. Now, reading the Bible for me is boring because I have heard some of the stories hundreds of times. God delivering the Jews from Egypt. And there's parts that I definitely haven't heard that often because nobody talks about them because they are boring, like instructions on building the tabernacle. So how would I answer, what did you do today, without just saying, oh, I read Exodus and it was really boring? Because that's not a fun answer. I could say, I spent the morning learning how to build a tabernacle. A little bit more interesting. I learned why the Prince of Egypt chose to end the movie when they did. To be fair, that one's not mine. That came from TikTok, but still. And I know this is weird, and if it doesn't work for you, that's completely fine. But this helps me a ton. All right, on to a piece of advice that is specific to personal curriculums. Your personal curriculum should be fun, or at least somewhat enjoyable. So if you're not enjoying it, you should probably work on changing some things. If you've watched my planning my spring personal curriculum video, you might already have a good idea of why I'm so behind. It's because I chose to do just way too much. As much as I would like to complete all of this, I did what I do with everything. I completely underestimated the amount of time and energy I had to dedicate to this. And sometimes that feeling of overwhelm is just too much, and I just cannot enjoy what I'm doing. And I mean, it's all self-inflicted because I just put all of these extreme deadlines for myself. So for the rest of the spring curriculum, I'm going to be combining assignments that make sense. I have a lot of writing assignments, and to cut back on those, I'm combining the creative nonfiction writing practice with the writing for the travel scrapbook journal. This next piece of advice is kind of related, and that's to make a minimum version of your curriculum. A good place to start is with any projects or assignments that you didn't give any specific measure for. For example, one of the courses is I want to improve my creative nonfiction writing, and to do that, to help inspire me, give me ideas, I'm reading creative nonfiction books. Now, I didn't set a goal like read 20 pages in each sitting or get through 3 books. So I'm setting a goal for now through May. I'm just going to try to finish Devotions by Mary Oliver, and it's for a few different reasons. First, easy to read. Second, I've already started this book. And third, out of all of the books, I think this is possibly the best choice because I really like how she uses imagery and she creates scenes in her really short poems. And creating scenes in like a short piece of work and then also using imagery are all things I'm trying to improve on. Next, don't study at a coffee shop. I really wish I could be the person who can read in a coffee shop completely unaware of what's going on around them, but I cannot. Sometimes I can kind of ignore my environment if my back's to a wall and there's not people right around me, but I can't always count on that. So I try to make my own like dream study cafe. First, find a nice place to sit. Usually this is my desk, but this can also be sitting at the kitchen counter, sitting on the couch, sitting on the floor, and sometimes sitting outside. And then obviously get a drink and or a snack. Now I'm sensitive to caffeine, so I'm usually drinking tea instead of coffee. And I've really been wanting to up my tea game. I have been watching these tea tray videos on YouTube and TikTok, and I haven't made one yet, but those videos give a ton of great pairing ideas, pairing for, you know, foods and teas. Oh, there's also some really good ideas for this on Pinterest as well. I'll usually have some sort of snack, just kind of whatever I feel like eating, but I do want to get into making tea trays sometime in the near future. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out for any like good non-perishable snacks that aren't just like loaded with calories, and ideally not loaded with sugar either. And I find that and it being non-perishable can be kind of hard. I'm also looking for, you know, cute dishes and then a tray whenever I go thrifting. And then there's the ambiance. Sometimes I'll listen to music, but what I've really been living recently is turning on those YouTube videos where someone sets up a camera in like a woods near a creek for like 5 hours. You hear the birds chirping, the water flowing. It's really nice. And when I look up from what I'm doing, I can just see it on the screen. My dream coffee shop would not have any music. It would be placed in like the middle of the woods, no windows, like there'd be holes in the wall, just no like glass there, so then you can hear nature. That is like my dream study cafe. Sometimes I'll use candles. If I burn a candle, I'll occasionally do a scented one, and when I do a scented, I have a lot of scented candles, but I like to pick something that's a little bit of a lighter scent, something that's not too overpowering, but I do find even with those, they can become overpowering after a while. So I also really love burning beeswax candles. They're unscented, but they do have a slight, I guess, honey scent to them. I really like them. I think they smell really nice. And they last a long time, so I don't feel bad about burning them for just hours and hours. I burn both candlesticks and pillars, and personally, I like the pillars more just because I'm less afraid of it falling over. I have a standing desk, so sometimes I raise it up if I want to stand, and I'm worried that the candlestick will just like topple over, but I do really like both. Some of my favorite scents are associated with the rain, so if a storm's rolling in or if it's raining, I'll try to open the window instead and let like that scent fill the room. I thought this would be an appropriate time for a tea haul. You saw the tea drawer. I don't need more tea, but also, I don't know, I was out of my favorites. I want to try some new stuff. I've really been liking Harney & Sons for kind of getting into nicer teas. They always get me with their little samples. This is a white vanilla grapefruit. It's a flavored white tea. That sounds so good. Oh, and then like an herbal chai. That's really fun. I already did get into one of these. I love dessert teas, so I ordered salted caramel. This is very good. It's actually what I'm drinking right now. I just put milk with it. I might put sugar with it to see if it tastes a little bit more caramely. But yeah, really good. I'm almost out of pears, so I ordered another box of that. Connor and I both really love hot cinnamon spice, and we've been out of it for a while. I did pick up some Mother's Day gifts. So this one is a caffeine-free floral tea. It's called Mother's Day. On the website, it shows what the loose leaf looks like, and it is so beautiful. And then another gift is this Ralph's American Breakfast. I also got one for myself. I've never had an American breakfast. I usually drink some sort of breakfast tea every morning. I like any sort of tea that you can put milk with. So I really want to know how this is going to compare to like English or Irish breakfast. I got another black tea. This is Scottish Morn. So they sell little samples. I really love when companies do this because there has been a few that we've bought and they've only sold them in like the 20 or 30 sachets. And I don't really like it, and Connor's not really a fan. So they're just kind of sitting in the cabinet. So I really love when they sell smaller things like this, even though each of these were like $5 or $6, which price per sachet is like a lot more than their bigger tins. This one was on sale though. This is their holiday one. This is a spiced black tea. And it's funny, the one that came like this as an ornament was cheaper than the one without the ornament packaging. This is a decaf vanilla tea. I've been wanting to try this one for a while, and I was so happy they made a smaller size. And this one I guess only comes with 3, but this is yellow and blue. It's an herbal tea, chamomile, lavender, and cornflowers. Oh, this is a matcha. I wanted to test how their matcha is. This is Supreme Matcha. Definitely not the highest quality one that they offer on their website, but I drink matcha as lattes, so I'm not extremely picky. Oh, and lastly, chai. I make my own chai, but that is like a 30-minute process. So I'm excited to try these, and I kind of want to see if I can make it how I normally make my chai, which you would kind of order as like a chai latte if you went somewhere. Okay, moving on. If it motivates you, try to make the learning process personal to you or personalized. I know it's a personal curriculum, it's fitting. I think this could kind of be broken down into 2 different categories. The first is your back to school type stuff. Going out and buying your favorite glitter gel pen, personalizing the cover of your notebook, making your Notion or Obsidian look really nice, things like that. But then also you have this other thing where if a certain topic isn't personal to you or your life, think for example, intro to cooking versus studying early Gothic literature. You can try to make it personal, you can try to relate it to your life in some sort of way. You can try to make it a little bit more of an experience. For example, I've seen videos where people watch movies and then they eat the foods that appear in the scene. If there's a soup that appears on screen, they have already pre-made the soup and like they eat it at the same time. They're making it a bit more fun, a bit more memorable, a little bit more immersive. And I should probably say that trying to make every course about you might not be helpful and may not even be appropriate depending on how you go about it. But I think I can speak for a lot of people when I say we are not going to be just memorizing random fun facts. You're going to remember what you use or what you experience or what you can relate to. I like creating courses that are like inherently personal. I know it's like a personal curriculum. So I don't have any great examples of how I took like this random topic and personalized it, but I want to learn more about the area where I live. And there's a few different ways I could go about this. I could have done some sort of like history course about the area. I could have done some sort of deep dive into local politics here, but I chose to go about it a different way. I'm working on researching places, mostly local small businesses, things to do in nature and events. And I'm putting all of these into a map I made in Notion. And while I search for these places or search for things to do, I end up learning a lot about the area's history, new developments that might get approved, which leads right into local politics. I learn a lot about the community as a whole and then like the sub-communities that are here. And then to make it even more personal, this summer I'm going to be using that map and going to those places or those events. The list is getting very long, so I'll be lucky if I could get to half of the things I put on that list. But because those places are relevant in my life, because I'm going to go check them out for the first time and plan kind of like an outing around it, or because maybe I end up really liking it and it becomes a regular place I go, there's a better chance I'm going to remember the history of those places. I'm going to remember which local politicians are in support of these places or events or communities. I think this is way more fun and is going to be way more effective long term. I would love to hear how your personal curriculums are going and how you're breaking them up too. Maybe you're also doing a spring curriculum, maybe you're doing it monthly, maybe just kind of whenever you feel like it. I'd love to know. And that is all I've got. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.